To the law now, traffic stops. Boy, we all know how that is. They can be stressful and startling if you're not prepared. By following certain rules, you will protect your rights and make sure the encounter is relatively uneventful. So let's get to our legal contributor, Craig Wisnom, for the advice that we need. Okay, you're pulled over, and what do you do?
Well, the first thing you want to do is stay very calm and appear very calm to the police. And the safest thing for them and for you is to keep your hands on the wheel where the officer can see them. You know, if you have a chance to get your paperwork before they get near your car, you know, your license and stuff, it's okay. But when they come up, the safest thing for them is to see exactly where your hands are to know that they're safe and you're safe.
Because they know there is no such thing as a routine traffic stop.
Exactly. You know you're safe. You know you don't have a gun or aren't going to pull it on the officer. They don't. And so they always have to be wary of that. So first of all, set them at ease.
Okay, what if they didn't do the lights? And what if they just did this? They wave you over.
Really no difference.
You gotta pull up.
Exactly. As long as you can tell, the safest and best thing to do is to follow their directions and do that.
Okay, what about Fifth Amendment and Fourth Amendment?
Well, Fifth Amendment is your right to keep silent, and Fourth Amendment is your right not to have your property searched without, you know, certain rules apply.
You're walking a line there with the Fifth Amendment because you could very easily irritate them.
Absolutely. Now, there are some things that are very easy. You know, always be polite to the policeman or policewoman. Always refer to them as officer. Don't try to argue with them. Don't try to act like you're smarter than them. If it comes to these rights, you don't want to come off with the attitude that I know my rights, you can't do this. You never want to tell that to a police officer.
You also don't want to just sit there and completely ignore them, right?
You don't want to ignore them. You want to be polite. But what you want to say, if you're in a situation where you're not sure what to say, if you think something you say could possibly be incriminating, and one thing to keep in mind, it could be a situation where you don't think you've done anything wrong, and you think, I'm going to explain it to the police officer, they'll know everything's okay. But after a certain point, you can only get yourself in trouble by talking, and you may not be able to do yourself any good.
What they always do is, do you realize how fast you were going?
Exactly.
Okay,
and the simplest thing to say is, no, officer. You know, let them tell you. No need to admit to anything, you know, off the top.
Now, there are some people who think if I just say yes and I act, you know, very apologetic, then I won't get the ticket.
Well, you know, it's a subjective process. Police officers are human beings, so there's no doubt that sometimes if you think you've done something and you want to try that approach, it may be effective. You just don't know. Certainly, what you know is being combative, arguing with them, being difficult, trying to show them up, that's not going to be effective. You know, basically either plead, be very polite, or keep quiet and just, you know, answer the absolute
What
minimum.
about when they're explaining to you about paying the fine or contesting it? It's very important, you say, to pay attention.
Absolutely. You want to listen to whatever they say, try not to interrupt them, get the information. Later on, it may be important for you to confirm what they say in terms of what's written there or checking with the court, but listen to them.
And before you're done, you should always say, are we done?
Exactly. Your officer, am I free to go? If you are, that's a good time to leave.
And that's
not too fast, but go ahead and leave at that point.
Very slowly pull away.
Exactly.
But if they say no, then at that point,
then it's a detention, and you know, at that point you probably don't want to say anything and tell them, thank you, officer, I don't want to say anything and I need to talk to my lawyer.
Okay, at that point you kind of get the hint that there's
something's going on. And keep in mind, that's what probably police officers would do if they were ever in that same situation. Sure. They know the correct thing, even if they think they're right, is to not say anything at that point and wait till they've had a chance to talk with an attorney.
And if you want to contest it, what ducks do you have to have in a row if you go to court?
Well, it's important, you know, you're not going to stop a police officer from doing it. You never want to resist them physically. If you don't want to answer them, tell them that politely. If you don't want them to search you or search your car, tell them that politely, be firm, be clear, but you know, if they go ahead and do it, the last thing you ever want to do is to try to stop them. That's going to get you in worse trouble than anything you're dealing with.
Use your manners.
Absolutely.
Your mom taught you,
that,
right?
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, Craig, as always, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, the U.S. Postal Service